Hello everyone, this is James Shore. Welcome to Let's Code Test-Driven JavaScript. I'm recording this on July 10th, 2012, and before we begin, I want to say thank you to everybody who backed this project on Kickstarter. We had 879 people pledge their support, and we raised nearly $40,000, and that generous support is what makes this series possible. Thank you very much, backers. It was because of you that we're doing this now. This series is about professional, rigorous web development. And what do I mean by that? Well, it's fairly easy to take some JavaScript and throw it on a page and get it to work. What's difficult is getting that to work on multiple browsers in multiple environments over the long term. So when I say professional and rigorous JavaScript development, what I mean is the type of development that allows a company that's depending on the success of their projects, the success of their JavaScript, to be successful as a company. So what that means is that it doesn't just have to work today on the test browser, it has to work on all browsers that the company has decided to support, and it has to keep working with a team of people working on development now and in the future. It has to work with people working, it has to support different people working on the project in the future that are working on it now. Ultimately, what that means is prioritizing maintainability over ease of initial build. That's my definition of professional development, which is recognizing the fact that software in a professional environment spends far more time in maintenance than it does in initial creation. So what we want to do is really prioritize ease of maintenance. In fact, what I like to see happen in a professional project is that the project actually becomes easier and easier to maintain over time, rather than the typical approach, which is that it becomes more difficult to maintain over time. So that's what this series is about creating a professional JavaScript application that becomes more easy to maintain over time, not more difficult. Now there's two channels here. There's the live channel, which is what you're seeing now. In this channel, we're going to develop a web application from scratch. There's also a lessons learned channel. What we're going to do in that channel is sort of distill out the primary lessons of this live channel into little bite-sized lessons that you can come back to and reference easily in the future. Now, I don't have all the answers. I barely have any of the answers, to be honest. So I encourage you to comment. I'm going to have some sort of mechanism on the website for creating conversations, for having you voice your opinion. And I'm also going to put the source code up on GitHub here. And I encourage you to fork the code. If you see me do something that you don't think is right, or you know there's a better way or a better library or something like that, chances are good I don't know about it. It's a big ecosystem and I don't have all the answers by a long shot. So let me know. And if you think it's something that's really interesting, really worth doing, or I don't feel like doing it right then, fork the code. Show us how it's done. I think this project will be much richer if your voice is included and if you show us your ideas by forking the code and implementing things differently than I do. Now, I'm not necessarily going to merge other people's forks back into the main body of the screencast source code. And the reason for that is that not everybody's going to be monitoring those forks, and I want to keep the screencast really clear and easy to understand. But if you're doing something that's just dramatically better than what we're doing in the series, those ideas will get incorporated back in. So please join the conversation, fork the code, participate. This series will be much stronger with your voice included. Now, what we're doing here is we're creating an application called WeeWikiPaint. I'll describe what that is in a few moments. We're going to start out completely blank directory. We're going to start from scratch. Now, I'm using JetBrains WebStorm for this. But before we begin, I think we need some version control. So I want to use Git. It's something that I think is a really great tool for source control. So we're going to create a Git repository. We're going to create a README file. And we're going to check that in as our initial commit. All right, so there we go. Now let's get our IDE up and running. I'm using WebStorm for this. The reason I chose WebStorm over something like VI or Eclipse or any other tool is that I really think that for maintainability, we need to be able to do a lot of refactoring, and I'm hoping that WebStorm will have really good refactoring support. I have used it before. The refactoring support was okay, but since then, I've learned some ideas to make the refactoring better, so I want to try that out. So we're going to create a new project. We need to do this. We need it to be in a local directory. Sort of an easy way to bring this up is we can open the current directory and then highlight it here. And there we go. Now it's telling us that it sees that I'm using Git, but it doesn't know about it. All right. Where are we at now? Good. Now there's one file. So WebStorm creates this directory called idea. And there's one file in there that we don't want to put into version control because it's user-specific settings, and that's workspace.xml. How do I know this? Well, I looked it up because last year when I used WebStorm for the first time, I was noticing it was changing all the time. What I need to do is, do I have a git ignore file? No, I don't. So I need to make a git ignore file, and we put into that .idea/workspace.xml. Okay, let's add idea. Yeah, okay. There we go. Okay, so now we've got version control and we've got an IDE set up for editing. So we're off to a good start. Let's talk about what this project is. It's called WeeWikiPaint, and normally I would do all my project management on index cards and a big whiteboard that everybody in the office could see. But since you're not here in the office with me, I thought I'd use a to-do file instead. So this is called WeeWikiPaint, and whenever I'm a big Agilist. I've been doing Agile development for a very long time, over 12 and a half years now. And so I like using Agile techniques for managing my projects. And one of the techniques I really like is the idea of the minimum marketable feature as a way of prioritizing work. So a minimum marketable feature is, or MMF, is something that the market cares about, something that they would buy or otherwise trade value for. It doesn't have to be money. Maybe it's their eyeballs, or they're willing to look at your advertisements, or they're just going to like you better. But whatever it is, it's something that your market would care about. Now for WeeWikiPaint, what I want to do is create a collaborative, real-time, multi-user painting program that's linked together like a wiki. I think this would be kind of cool. We're going to be using Node.js on the server, as well as, of course, JavaScript on the client. So that takes advantages of Node.js's strength, which is it's really good at real-time web stuff. So I thought that would be neat. We could say that our first feature is a collaborative painting wiki. But honestly, that's too much work. These episodes are only 15 minutes long, so we may not get to that right away. So we need to make it a minimum marketable feature. So I think maybe just sort of a marketing homepage would be a good start. And then I think from there we can have a collaborative painting page. And then, but very basic. And then we can wikify the pages. And then maybe we could have more complex painting. I'm not sure. And then maybe more collaborative features. Yeah, I don't know. We'll figure it out. Okay, so those are the things that we can sell to our users. And by users, so I'm considering all of you watching to be part of the development team in sort of a loose sense. So our users are going to be the broader audience, the broader consumer web that we're going to actually release this product to. When I say marketable, I mean marketable to that broader consumer web. Now, minimum marketable features are a good start, but they're too big to really see progress on quickly. So I also like using user stories. User stories are a way of showing progress from a business perspective, but that are smaller than marketable feature or MMF. So let's say we're working on the marketing homepage. Very first thing we're going to need to do is have some sort of hello world for the server. I'm going to make these really small. We'll also need some sort of hello world for the client. We need to support multiple browsers. So we'll make this one browser. And we'll need to have marketing copy. First thing I want to do, though, is just get a basic sort of hello world server up and running. And these are really small stories, really simple, because there's a lot of infrastructure for us to get going to get the first of these working. Now, to get this user story done, we're going to have some engineering tasks. Engineering tasks are just, to-dos for programmers. We're going to need to get an automated build up and running. We're going to need to have continuous integration. We're going to have server-side testing. We have client-side testing. Let's see. Well, that's a good start. I think as we work on this, I'll probably want to turn these around a little bit, but I think that's a good enough place to start. That's our plan. Let's go ahead and get an automated build up and running. In the past, what I've used is Jake. Jake is the JavaScript version of Rake, which is the Ruby version of Make, which is a build automation tool. Now, Jake wants to be installed globally, but one of the things I really like about NPM, the Node Package Manager, is that it installs everything into this Node modules directory. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just run Jake from the command line like this. So it's going to be node modules bin Jake. There we go. No Jake file found. Perfect. Of course, we don't want to type that every time, so let's make a little shell script to run that for us. And we'll need it to pass all the parameters through. Okay, so now we can run Jake. It still says there's no Jake file, but it looks like everything else is working. So now we can make a Jake file. And Jake file is very similar to Ruby Rake. What we do is we provide tasks, such as example, along with functions that run when that task executes, like that. And we can also provide descriptions that show up when we do the -t option to Jake. So there, now we see that our tasks are Jake space example, and if we run that example like this, it will run it and print out what we have. Now, the neat thing about a make file or Jake file, if you haven't seen it before, is that they have dependencies built in. So we can also say that we want this to depend on a dependency. So what that will do is run this dependency before it runs example. Let me show that to you. So it runs the dependency and then runs the example, but it only runs the dependency once. So it's sort of classic build automation stuff, and that's what we're going to have to do. That's what we're going to pick up with next time, is getting the build really up and running. That's all the time we have for this first episode. Thanks very much for watching, everybody. I'm really looking forward to continuing this journey with you. And again, please fork the source code and add your comments in the forums. Thanks again. I will see you next time.